Talk about Miami here in just a second. Jay Will, good morning. Welcome to your own show. It's great to have you here.
As a guest.
We'll see you here in person tomorrow. What are your first blush thoughts? You won't be a guest tomorrow.
Zubin, do not buy into how Keyshawn's going to bait you into joking with me about this whole thing. That's not who you are, Zubin. Don't buy into it, all right?
So what are your first blush thoughts on the NBA Finals being set? Lakers Heat, you'll be all over it starting Wednesday night.
You know, just to add on to your point that you guys are talking to about LeBron, it's crazy. He's actually in year 18 right now. He's in year 18. Now, you can say he had time off from the injury he had last year, which held him out of the playoffs to then this time in between the bubble. But, you know, just to add on one piece of information to all the things that Key just outlined about how challenging it is, think about where he is at this juncture of his career, how he's playing. For him to have a triple-double last night, 2 nights ago, leading into the NBA Finals, and that epic picture of him sitting on the floor while there's confetti coming down, you know, teammates are celebrating, and they should be in a celebratory mood. But just goes to show you that same kind of, and it's interesting, Key, like Kobe never was satisfied. It never felt like Kobe was satisfied. Even at that next stage of his life, you saw him want to be a better father, want to be a better husband. Like that mindset translated to everything he did. And watching LeBron James sit on the floor after they win the Western Conference Finals, regardless of however it happened, right? Bubble, non-bubble, he doesn't care. It was a mission that was unaccomplished. Like there's still so much more for LeBron James left to do, that as a fan of him, as a fan of the way he plays, and also a fan of Kobe Bryant, you're seeing a meshing of these worlds collide. And you're seeing LeBron take that next step into a stratosphere of his career that kind of takes on more of that Mamba mentality torch. He's already had it. I just think you're seeing a different level of it right now for the weight that he's had to carry, and it's incredible to watch.
No, it is, and you can certainly, as you watch the game, much like I did, you could certainly see in that late fourth quarter, with about 7 minutes plus to go, he was not about to allow his teammates to trick off him appearing with the Lakers in the NBA Final. Jay, what do you take away from the Miami Heat being the team coming out of the East when there was so much praise that the Boston Celtics would be the team that would come out of the East?
Well, I said this the other night, NBA Countdown. The Miami Heat have the dog that the Boston Celtics were trying to find, and his name was Scrappy, right? There's no doubt that the Boston Celtics team is the more offensively talented team. But first off, Eric Spoelstra outcoached Brad Stevens. They took 46 threes last night, Key. Like that's why you play a zone. Let me lure you in. Let me bait you into shooting threes instead of them like we saw the game prior where they attacked the rim. They were getting to the free throw line. Jason Tatum looked like a star. Watching the game last night, it was like a team that was content with just taking outside jumpers. So look, are they the more talented team on paper? No, but they're the team that is better blended together as a unit. Now, the interesting thing to see what's going to happen in this matchup with the Lakers is, you know, Bam is going to guard AD. Key, you and I have talked about this. What player are we going to see AD be? The guy that decides to be, you know, dominant on the block, or a guy that wants to float on the perimeter? Sometimes if Miami plays zone, that can force AD to be in the perimeter. And then we get a chance to see a dog of the dog matchup when Jimmy Butler goes against LeBron James. And here's what I say about Miami Heat. I still think the Lakers win in 6, but this is going to be a really big defensive challenge for the Lakers. Because the way Miami moves without the ball, like they never stop running. It's like the Duracell battery. Like they never stop moving all the time, 24/7. So Danny Green, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Alex Caruso, Rajon Rondo, like all these guys are going to be important because the way they defend Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Jay Crowder, you know, Andre Iguodala, who had 14 points last night, that's going to be imperative to how this team plays because they win by their collective unit, not by having a star like Jimmy Butler step up every single night.
Hey, Jay, what do you make of that young core that the Miami Heat has put together? They've obviously grown before our eyes in the bubble, in particular in the playoffs.
Key, you know, covering college basketball for so long before I started doing NBA, man, like Duncan Robinson came from a D3 school, right? D3, man. If you were to watch him play at Michigan, Key, if you and I were sitting back on a Saturday watching college basketball, you'd be like, okay, he's all right. He's okay. Like he may go make money overseas. I would have never thought he was going to be a starter in the NBA. And his skill set is that he does always move. Tyler Hero, like now all these videos are resurfacing of him doing this thing. And I know Paul Pierce said he's not a bucket until he averages 20 points per game throughout the regular season, but still, like he has that energy. Like this whole team takes on the leadership that they get from Jimmy Butler. And now the question I asked is, everybody kept asking, what's wrong with Jimmy Butler? Now I'm asking, what's wrong with everybody else? Because now I see when he leads his team with the culture that he wants to build with Pat Riley, it's different. And Key, you brought up this point. I think you should tell all of our viewers the story that you told, because me being the basketball guy, I didn't bring it up. You brought it up. Tell the story you told me about extra motivation for the Miami Heat and Pat Riley, considering that Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra are playing against a guy that they helped win a world championship to. Tell people that story that you said.
Well, if you was listening to your own show this morning instead of sleeping, I told that story earlier.
I wasn't on that. I wasn't listening to it, Key. I was not listening.
No, it's just the conversation and the thought, the mindset of LeBron James winning 2 championships in Miami, going back to Cleveland, but now he has an exit strategy to get back into free agency, and Pat Riley wanted to come and get him. So Pat flew to Las Vegas to sit down and talk to LeBron and his crew, or as Pat Riley, as Phil Jackson would say, posse, and try and court him again to get him to come back and be a part of the Miami Heat for a second time, and he declined to do that. And so Pat goes back to Miami, and he has a plan in place to tackle free agency a year later, and goes and gets Jimmy Butler and put some guys around him, the Tyler Heroes and the Duncan Robinsons and Bam, and say, okay, we're going to make a strong run at the East because I got a coach in Eric Spoelstra that I think could get it done. Now, all of a sudden, that motivation to win one for us and Pat and everybody else involved in the organization, because we basically got backslapped by LeBron James. And that is something that, from a storyline standpoint, is good for you, Z, when you're back on SportsCenter.
No question about it. Think about this. Bam Adebayo was the runner-up for the most improved player of the year. Right now, he's had a virtuoso offensive performance, and he had one of the best, according to Magic Johnson, maybe the best defensive play in the history of the NBA playoffs. Yes, the LeBron chase down block, but that was in moment where you think about where it was. He's just talking about in the bubble for a singular play, that one finger block that he had. Bam has been great defensively and offensively, according to Magic himself. And then the fact that Tyler Hero was a second-team all-rookie. Are you telling me there were 5 guys? I got Morant, I got Zion, even Kendrick Nunn, a guy on the Miami Heat, Jay himself. But think about that. Bam's emergence and Hero being second-team all-rookie.
And Zebin, it's like, look, we get a chance to work together and we all kick it all the time. And I know I only played 1 year in the league, and I know Keyshawn had a long-standing career. The one thing I think that we all can share in common, exactly like when our show came out, everybody kept saying, these guys aren't going to work. They're not going to know what's going to be like. It's not going to, like, okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. And the one thing that we always remember as competitive athletes is that, look, I might forgive, but I never forget. I don't forget. That serves my motivation each and every day. And this is the trickle-down effect that you're seeing from leadership from Pat Riley. Pat Riley may have forgiven LeBron James, but Pat Riley did not forget, Key, flying all the way out to Vegas with his first lieutenant, having an easel there to pitch what they were going to do, sitting in a room with LeBron James, Maverick Carter wasn't there, Rich Paul was there, Randy was there, his crew. And while they were trying to talk about what the plan was moving forward, they were watching the World Cup. And Pat Riley asked them actually to mute the TV because they felt like they were being somewhat disrespected to a degree. To being on a plane a couple hours later, to Rich Paul calling Pat Riley and handing LeBron James the phone, and LeBron telling him, thank you, I appreciate it, but I'm moving on. Pat Riley, like the maestro, he remembers that. So there is extra added on motivation for this franchise, for everything they put through with Jimmy Butler, to play the Los Angeles Lakers as hard as possible to spoil this party for LeBron James. Trust and believe that. That's the world we live in.
Hey, Jason, I know one thing that you're going to forget is Danny Dimes' performance yesterday. You're going to forget that, huh?
I didn't come here to talk about New York football. I don't want to talk about New York football, Key.